Hello, sorcerers. So, today's video is going to be, I've got some lists of things to talk about to follow, but if you clicked on the thumbnail, you know we're here to talk about why sorcery is, in my opinion, the best place for an artist to craft their wares, sell their wares, display their wares. And this was a cascading series of events that sort of led me to make this video that are more relevant, as you can see on the screen, to other TCGs. But this also created some really good news, I think, for sorcery that we're going to get to in the middle or second half of this video. Little ripples of the stone that really broke the water in the most recent controversy for Magic, which was this One Ring controversy. So Dan Frazier is an artist for MTG. He's been working in Magic the Gathering since the very beginning, 1993, and he crafted some of the most iconic pieces of art that have ever existed in the game, particularly Moxen, things that were part of the Power 9, and has been crafting cards ever since that are just beloved, sought after. He is now 81 years old, and he was given the One Ring, which is an iconic thing for Universes Beyond set for Magic the Gathering, and this was unveiled at MagicCon Vegas just this past weekend. And as soon as it was unveiled, though, some people noticed, one, the ring isn't really in Dan Frazier's style. It's much more of a hand sketch thing that his style usually is, but it looked strikingly similar to another artist, Martin Nail, who did the One Ring, as you can see on the right side of this screen, with Smeagol's hand kind of reaching out to it. Marta did this for, there was a special ring box set that had like a couple pictures that joined together to show, the two, Sam and Frodo and Smeagol, and also the One Ring, all at the top of Mount Doom in that big catastrophic moment in the storyline. And so what basically you can see from the bottom of this screen is that the ring, the shadows and such, are almost identical when you just flip this ring to what it looks like over there on Dan's art. And so speculation was wild. Dan's agent came out and said something to the effect of, there's no way Dan did this. I saw some of his original sketches. There was a lot of back and forth. Wizards, or maybe Middle Earth Inc., or whatever the name of that company is, wasn't happy. We don't know exactly what the behind-the-scenes workings were, but people were defensive of Dan because he's never really shown any reason to be the kind of guy who would just blatantly lift another artist's work without even really doing that much work to cover it up. So initially there was concern that Wizards had done something behind the scenes. So there's all this drama around the art. And this is not new for Magic, as we're going to get into shortly, or if you've been around Magic at all. The fact that for Universes Beyond sets, which are the universes beyond the Magic original universe, almost all of the artists have to work digitally. There has been some softening on those contracts, but very, very limited amount of softening on those contracts. And when the artist does that work digitally, they don't own it at all. There's nothing they can do with it. They can't sell it on playmats because it's property of Wizards, but it's also property of these other companies that Wizards is working with, like Marvel or whatever. And so now, who knows who's at fault here? Like, if there's been some softening on the contracts, a question has come up, like, why can't you just treat artists really well and allow them to work in hand-painted medium, have the hard piece of art afterwards, just work that into the contract? See if Marvel wouldn't agree to that, for instance, or whatever the property might be, instead of just kind of hardlining, not fighting on behalf of the artists to get them the ability to have the physical paintings, which are often able to sell for buku bucks later. It's one of the main ways that artists can make money in any kind of collectible card game like this. So, long story short, comes out next we'll go down this tab. And I hope you can see it. And if you can't, I'll try to zoom in a little bit here. So Wizards of the Coast releases a statement. Recently, fans noted similarities between The One Ring by Martin Nail and the newly released image of The One Ring by Dan Frazier. Those similarities are not coincidental, unfortunately. That's underplaying it. From Dan, we get a quote. He says, "I made a mistake. I feel awful. I feel especially bad for Marta, whose work I adore, in trying to create an iconic version of The One Ring while looking at references online." References being a key word, because it's not uncommon for Wizards to send some of that art that they've acquired. It's theirs digitally from previous sort of renderings of said One Ring. For instance, this could have been a thing that happened. They could have sent Dan this Martin Nail image, and then Dan used it as some kind of placeholder, or try to, like, if we're being generous. Or if not, Dan's not used to working digitally. That's what I've heard from everyone around him. So he's an older artist. He's 81. He's probably not very well scripted in how to use Photoshop and stuff. Either way, he writes this comment about how he bugged out. Whatever happened on his side, we don't know. But he wronged Marta, which is first and foremost, right? Marta did the art. Marta had her art stolen. And, whatever the intent behind it was, doesn't matter that much. But now they're going to, at least Wizards as part of this, is going to give sort of co-creator credit to Marta for this card. In addition, they are going to compensate her for the work on the card again. So now one of the crazy things about this is Wizards doesn't have to do this. So, because Marta no longer owns the art. Wizards does. And so they're kind of doing this, they're doing a solid to the artist. But if no one had ever caught this, then Marta would be unknowingly just like having her work paraded around in reverse, flipped on this new quote-unquote Dan Frazier card, and never have been compensated for it if there wasn't a big outcry. So there's a weird ethical thing there going on where now Wizards owns this art, and so it kind of takes rights away from the artist, which brings us to the fallout. And as we start to get into this, we'll see why Sorcery is just such a good dang game. And these are some of the dominoes that fell for me. This was the first one I noticed. But this is certainly not the first time that Wizards artists have been upset or confused, or Universes Beyond has been a problem with creating art or selling it. There's a long history, and we can't afford to get into it, honestly. But enter Donato Giancola. Donato Giancola speaks out on artist conditions in light of the One Ring art controversy. And this is at the end of Donato's longer letter. I want to be clear. I cannot recommend any artist's work for Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast, nor seek assignments under Wizards' current exploitative pay rate and work for hire contractual structures used with their Magic the Gathering Universes Beyond freelance commissions. I stopped working with Wizards of the Coast over 2 years ago over these very contractual conditions. Do better, Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast. So, Donato Giancola, if you don't know, is just an incredible artist and had worked for Wizards of the Coast for a long time. So I pulled up a bunch of the cards. As you can see in the corner here, there's 217 different arts that Donato has made for Wizards of the Coast, including some highly iconic pieces. Some of my favorites, we've got Cartographer, beautiful card. The details are stunning once you get down to it. I love Cartographer's Hawk because I love birds. I have like 3 or 4 copies of this card just for the art alone. Yeah, it's just incredible work over the years. Donato's last kind of pieces, or some of the last pieces I think, were some of these commissioned homages to Sheldon Minery, who was a very famous judge in Magic the Gathering and who created, with a bunch of friends, the Commander format. So whether or not you like Commander or not, I know some Sorcery players are like, please, no multiplayer. Well, people can play what they want to play. But I understand the fear, right? Because people often look at Commander as the boogeyman that ended competitive 1v1 Magic. And I think to a degree, Commander was there, right? But I also think Wizards is the one that ended competitive 1v1 play. They made all of the decisions that led to the 1v1 downfall of Commander, the downfall of the Pro Tour. Commander didn't do any of these things. It was just there, and Wizards was like, let me exploit that. That sounds wonderful. Money. Awesome. But anyways, Donato Giancola did some of these really cool arts over the years. And so they're a wonderful artist. So them being in an uproar, it's not unusual for them. They are outspoken. And I praise them for it. But then, here's where we get some sweet sorcery news. Another artist from Magic's past comes out on Facebook. I follow them there. They are a creator of one of my favorite sets of all time. And if you kind of follow me on social media, or maybe you've heard me talk about it in a video before, I love the Dark. The Dark is the inspiration sort of for Gothic, I believe. It is a set that is in a time after the quote-unquote Ice Age of Magic, and it's a lot of distrust and institutional rot, and there's just a bunch of societal sort of reflections that happen in the Dark. And it was the first set ever in Magic to use the color white, which stood for law and order and all these things, and to turn it on its head, to imagine what white looks like when it's just wild preachers, say, for instance. And so we'll look at the art of Jesper, and I might pronounce the last name wrong, Mirafors? I'm not sure. But Witch Hunter, famous dark card. This is the kind of... Jesper was responsible for creating the Dark. And this was sort of his image. Think Salem witch trials. Think anytime an angry mob had come upon some situation that they didn't quite understand. Think Frankenstein's monster being chased with pitchforks and such. These were all law-abiding citizens, quote-unquote, but easily misled. There's a card called Preacher by Quentin Hoover, another sorcery artist, which is fantastic. In fact, why not? We're just floating around. Let's look it up. Preacher. Sweet art. Love it. Let's go back to the original Dark version, just for... I don't want to see that online one. Yeah, Quentin Hoover art. Preacher just fire and brimstone. A lot of text on that box, but basically you just gain control of an opponent's creatures when you tap it, and that's because you're just preaching that fire and brimstone. So Jesper comes out. And Jesper doesn't talk a lot about sorcery. He hasn't really mentioned it a lot, but it hit the Reddit feed on Sorcery TCG, and I'll read this. It's a shorter statement, but I think it's important. I realize that some people might show up to my feed from outside of gaming. They might become interested in the field of gaming. I, along with the rest of early people at WotC, helped originate and want to get into it. It really is a fantastic form of gaming and a rewarding hobby. Please avoid anything published by Wizards of the Coast. They are no longer in any way word supporting. Now, this is the former art director of Magic from 1993 to 2001. So this is a person who was deeply invested in the game. Then goes on to say, I say, give Sorcery Contested Realm a try. The art looks fantastic, and I hear the game is really fun. When you buy Sorcery Contested Realm, you're not throwing your hard-earned pay at corporate carpetbaggers who were never gamers to begin with. You're supporting a healthy and growing community that has risen from the ashes of what greed did to the entire hobby. Now, I have not worked on the game, though I would love to, nor do I know the publishers. More on that in a second. There is in no way a paid endorsement here. I have heard from many, many people that it is a great game that treats their artists with respect and like valued members of a team. I have friends who have worked on the game and they have nothing but great things to say about the experience. They feel this company values its place in a real community. It is worth supporting. Question comes down to supporting the community by putting money into a game that will use that money to make more of what you love, and making sure, important for Jesper, the artists who work on it are rewarded, and giving the money to people who do not think beyond the next quarter. So you have that choice. What a great glowing endorsement for sorcery. I mean, you can go on YouTube, and I've gone to find a couple little clips here and there. The third domino that falls, or this is the fourth domino, in just this 1 week. So this One Ring thing has really, I think, started sort of a little small tidal wave of people thinking about artists again, which is important. It's why a lot of us came to Sorcery TCG. It awakens that feeling of awe when we open those cards. And it got me thinking too. But not only me. Here's another YouTuber who you might be familiar with. Sorcerers! Josh here. That's my impression. Sorry, Josh. I haven't met you. But he releases this video just 1 day ago. Sorcery without the art is not sorcery. And I encourage you guys to go watch it. There's only 681 views on it right now. But Josh is very earnest in this video. He talks about, and this is the Lord of Itza, ITZA. If you're trying to look for his channel, I'll leave links in below for a lot of these things that we're going to reference. So Josh is very earnest. He talks about how sorcery is maybe the first time he felt he was able to not only communicate with artists and stuff, because that's often something you can do at Magic Cons as well. Just sit at artist tables, shoot the breeze, talk with them, get signings. But this was the first time he felt like he was able to actually afford buying a piece of art. And he's always loved art, but he talks about how it just helped him connect to the game in a way that he's never been able to connect with a previous card game before. And I think it's awesome. I feel similarly. When I would go to Magic Grand Prix and other events back in the day, I would sit at artist tables. I'd be getting signatures and like special tokens that they made. I had a friend who was into horror movie monsters, so he got a lot of old Magic artists. He got a plain white playmat, and he got them all to like do a rendering of like a cool monster and signed by it. And so like a bunch of different artists were all like creating this sort of collage of cool old monsters on his playmat. It was a really epic idea. But it was just a blast to see him work. You know, I have some artist proofs and special drawings that people have done for me at conventions. I love the art. It's one of the main reasons I get in this hobby. So from there, these dominoes start falling, and I start looking up sorcery and art. And obviously there's so many videos. For instance, this is from Questing Beasts. They're a big YouTuber in like the tabletop gaming space. But 2 years ago, they were sent a box of sorcery, or maybe, I don't know if it was sent to them or not, but they opened it up on the channel and they just gush the whole time. And they lead with the title, Sorcery, the TCG that banned digital art. Art is integral to this game. Never, ever, ever take it for granted, because in so many other games, you will not get that sort of hand-painted style that just harkens back to a different time and a more authentic time. I think that's really important in a time of AI and all kinds of other nonsense. One of the reasons artists love sorcery is because they get to work in this medium that's beautiful and fun and physical, but also it leaves them with a physical thing that they can then sell, which is really important. If you work digital only, well, you can sell some prints if the company that you're working for allows you to, unlike Wizards of the Coast. But if you have that physical painting, you can fetch buku bucks, and you can give, or you can just like sell it to somebody like Josh, Lord of Itza, who just saved up a lot of money and traded off cards to get the money to do it, to support this artist, but also like have a piece of just physical representation of your connection with the game, which is honestly fantastic. If you've ever been to art museums and seen paintings up close, it's really beautiful to see the strokes of the paint, the type of, there's texture to almost every painting that you miss when you see it online. It's almost like when somebody says like you need to see the Grand Canyon, but in pictures it never is the same. Up close and personal hand-painted art is very similar. There's an element to it, especially if you see something wild like a Van Gogh up close. Like there's so much paint on that canvas that it's like a literal field of texture on the painting itself. But it's like that for almost all art. There's just something to it. It's a different level. So I'm so glad that Sorcery does that. But in addition, Sorcery does these wonderful things like honoring a legend. This is a video on YouTube. I will link to all these below, where they honor Quentin Hoover. Quentin Hoover was my favorite artist when I got into Magic. I had pages of just Quentin Hoover art. Granted, I was a teenage boy, so you can think of probably some cards that were like, oh, I get that. But in a non-weird or creepy teenager way, just all the art I thought was just fantastic. The line work, I was a big fan of Alphonse Mucha. I was an aspiring artist myself, but more of a cartoonist really, but I was in art classes and stuff, and so I tried to recreate a lot of Quentin Hoover art on my own. And so I always had this deep connection. I got 4 copies of Vesuvian Doppelganger, which I thought was amazing art. Anyway, so I started to get into sorcery just a month and a half, 2 months ago, because I was looking at videos like this that were like, wow, there's such a care for the people who make your game that it felt like a warming feeling just overall. Because coming from Magic, as we can see, there's so much money put into gaining properties and making pizza cards for Michelangelo the Turtle to eat and whatever. Like, I'm not saying there's not care put into that, because I know the designers work hard. But there's such a push, and it's just a constant tidal wave that it feels like there is by nature. Not because of the people working on it, but because of the system they work within, that there's just not nearly as much time to relish, care about, and the contractual stuff of artists having to deal with that is bad. I don't like it. So that brings us to one of the final points of this video. Then I came across this video. Excuse me. This is Ed Beard Jr. He is one of the creators of the original Elder Dragons in Magic the Gathering. I knew that there was some special set, because I'm late to this game, called Dragonlord. So, Dragonlord, I'm like, what is that? So it turns out, Dragonlord is this thing in Sorcery, opened up at Gen Con, and it was a mini set where they got to reveal, I think, 13 different cards from a story that Ed Beard Jr. had been working on for literal decades. And in the video, which I'm going to link below, and I highly, highly recommend it, because it's such a beautiful story. Like, I'm a sentimental guy sometimes, as I get older especially, because, again, I'm here because of the seeming care and value that sorcery seems to have for its artists. So that's a really sentimental vibe anyway. But this was like over and beyond for me. Sorcery, long story short, Sorcery approaches Ed Beard Jr. Hey, you want to do any work for us? Ed Beard Jr., sure. Sorcery, anything you've been working on? Ed Beard Jr., well, I've been working on this thing for 20 years. It's a literal story with hundreds of characters about dragons and all kinds of stuff. Sorcery, really? That sounds awesome. Ed Beard Jr., what? You're interested in that? Sorcery, yeah, sure, tell us about it. Ed Beard Jr. tells them about it, how it involves elements and sort of auditory things like resonance and things like that. And they say, like, hey, Sorcery, Eric's Curiosa, is like, yeah, we have elements in our game. Seems like a perfect fit. What would you think about doing literally 13 big paintings for this set, and we just release it in its own thing? Ed Beard Jr., hell yeah, sign me up. And so that's a really, like, you know, a miniaturized, not as cool version of the story. But Sorcery is the best place for artists because of something like this. Like, you will find no card game ever that would take the passion project of an artist and be like, we're going to let you release your own set, and we're going to fully fund it and support it, and you're going to get hundreds and hundreds of boxes to sell from it. Now, preface, I know that Sorcery players who know about Dragonlord are a little upset with the price of Dragonlord. Let's look at this. $375 for this dang thing. They are hard to find because there's always a random foil in the set, and some of those foils are very pricey. I mean, they're all pretty pricey, but some are extra pricey. The thing is, I have read about places like on the Discord server for Sorcery Marketplace, which I can link below. where people will sell you the paper cards minus the foil. And that means you get all of the cards at a much more discounted rate, but you don't get the special foil that the collectors are valuing. So without going too far down that path, I just wanted to cut that off at the pass, mostly because I understand. Like, sorceries can be expensive. This is a whale-like product. You do not need any of these dragon cards to play the game, but I know it comes up anytime this gets brought up because people feel left out, right? It was at Gen Con, then it was at SCG Cons, and then it was just like sold online. And that didn't feel great, but still going on as of now. And this is, again, a little whale-like. But if you are aware of Ed Beard Jr.'s private page, he is currently selling for $349, which is about the average price that you'll get on TCG Player, boxes of Dragonlord. Now, the catch, and the good catch, is that this is not for scalpers, because what we're doing is he's opening them up. He opens them up on a video. You get your own private link to like that opening, and then he will sign for you any number of those cards that you want. If you're familiar with artist signatures often go for a price, sometimes $25, $50 even, depending. So the fact that in no additional cost to this, he will sign up to 13, 14 cards for you is massive. And I did pick up one of these. This is one of those whale moments. I was like, I love Ed Beard Jr. The story just struck my heart like an arrow right through it. He was so psyched in the video to like open up his cards for the first time. Like, you could see it was dream fulfilled. And I want to support his dreams to do that, and also the idea that Sorcery does this. So I went ahead and picked up a copy of this, and I hope that by the time this video releases tomorrow morning, maybe there's still copies left. He had a limited edition of 700. The box comes to you signed. I'm in no way affiliated or like supported by Ed Beard Jr. or Sorcery at this point, although, fingers crossed, would love to. Let's collaborate. Me with nobody, really. I mean, you guys are awesome that you watch me, but my channel's small. But, let's collab. But anyways, I hope this is still available for anybody that could afford something like this. And if you can't, don't feel bad. I'll also leave that Discord link to where you can probably get a good copy of this close to MSRP, or not too much of a markup, minus the foil special card. But hey, you get all the 13 other cards that Ed Beard talked about, and one of those cards is coming up real soon in a video deck tech that I'm going to do for Sorcery. So as we wrap up, I just want to say that Sorcery is an incredible place to be. And every month that goes by, every controversy that happens in Magic the Gathering or some other card game, it brings more and more people over. And this time it's not even card players that it's bringing over. It's bringing over classic old artists. Because in the comments for that Jesper Mirfor's kind of rant where he's like, I'd like to work with him. Now, I can't verify the authenticity of these people, but they seem to be people in the know who are backed up. There were commenters saying, hey, I can get you in touch with them. They've been wanting to work with you. They just needed to know really how to get involved, get a hold of you. So I'm going to hook you guys up. So there's a very real chance that we'll be seeing some sweet Jesper Mirfor's art in the near future. And Jesper, if you watch this, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I got your last name wrong. Please, somebody correct me in the comments below, and I won't do it again. But, yeah, it's so nice to be a place, to be a part of a thing that values people, that values authenticity in a world that feels so inauthentic so much of the time, whether it's politicians or AI slop or whatever. There's so much out there that doesn't feel real. So I hope that you're feeling valued and warm and part of this sweet community that like does these things that literally no other card game would do. It's the craziest thing, this Ed Beard story. It just blew my mind away. I'm still a little shattered in talking about it. And for the folks who, this is a little bit off topic, but I'll end with this, who were like, multiplayer is going to be the death of sorcery. Well, look at this thing. This thing came from Spain. It's so huge, I can't even fit it in the whole camera. This is a playmat. That is a multiplayer. Look at this thing. It's like an unending snake. Woo! My headphones got pulled out. Okay, so yes, we played our first multiplayer games. They were great. And I can't wait to show some to you. We're still trying to get the recordings down. But thank you so much for your time. Click, subscribe, like, all those things. Hope the YouTube algorithm treats us well and keep growing this community. But really appreciated y'all no matter what. It's been great so far, and we will keep going. Coming up soon, we got an Arthurian Legends box opening, maybe some gameplay videos. Really working hard on that, but there's things we got to work out first to get it right. And then more cool deck techs. Keep contesting the realm.